I want a little tiny one. Did you know, did you receive that thing on the internet where dogs don't like to be hugged?
Yes, I saw.
Yep.
We'll call the Water Pollution Control Authority and Town Council meeting to order for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2006 at 7:05 PM. Start first with salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No.
I guess so. Good.
No.
What he spent. That's such a waste of paper. And what he wants.
They're all posted on.
And we tried, but it seems like they made some nice headway. Roll call.
Mayor Duty,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Here.
Counselor Angeloni,
Here.
Counselor Arman,
Here.
Counselor Candelora,
Here.
Counselor Diamond,
Here.
Counselor Manna,
Here.
Counselor Miller,
Here.
Counselor Rose.
Here. Next item is approval of minutes of previous meeting, April 6th, 2016, deliberations budget.
I'd like to make a motion to table these minutes, and Mike, if you could get us the exact verbiage of the motion on page 2 it's the first motion, in regards to the BOE budget.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Page 2, BOE.
Yeah, it's the first motion on the page.
Oh, I see it, okay.
Reduce the increase in BOE budget, is that referring to?
I'm referring to the last line, the funding of the risk corridor of $314,000 will not be eliminated or reduced.
Let's get the whole motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Arman,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond,
Yes.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is April 19th, 2016, Town Council minutes.
I move to accept the minutes, April 19th.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Arman,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond,
Yes.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next item is Water Pollution Control Authority agenda, correspondence, citizens, and statements. None. Unfinished business, nothing listed. New business, nothing listed. Citizen statements and petitions under Water Pollution Control Authority. Moving to the regular Town Council agenda. Reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Permanent Project Building Committee.
There is no meeting.
Economic Development Commission.
There's a special meeting scheduled for Thursday, I believe, correct, Mike?
That is correct, Thursday
Yeah.
night.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
Yep.
Next is Park and Recreation Commission.
There was a meeting on the 26th. I didn't attend it because I was attending a Park and Rec activity of the Pizza Wars, which had more people attending than they've ever had before, which was very impressive. But at the Park and Rec meeting, two of the issues were that youth football has declined to participate in the cow chip raffle for the Potato Corn Festival, and our director, Lauren Monroe, is working without a secretary, and that's causing some hardship, but I understand that that position is going to be filled. Next meeting is May 24th.
Okay, thank you. Police Commission?
Next meeting is Monday, May 9th.
Fire Commission, next meeting is, I believe, Thursday. Board of Education, Town Council Communications Subcommittee,
There's no meeting.
Town Council Planning and Goals Subcommittee.
That committee met on April 17th. We are continuing to work on our needs assessment. We're meeting again on May 11th. Hopefully, at the town council meeting on May 17th, we'll have more information to share with the town council in terms of future meetings and plans.
Next is Public Safety Communications Committee.
The Public Safety Communications Committee is meeting on May 11th at 6 p.m.
Les is Planning and Zoning Commission.
They will next meet this coming Thursday.
Mike, did we discuss East Shore Health District in here, or that doesn't? That's not mentioned.
No, unless,
Not a
if you
town
have,
commission.
Yeah, I went to the meeting, and they're selling one car, buying a new electric car, and it's like, we're discussing, they're changing a credit card to a different vendor, which is similar to what we're talking about.
The easy pay system.
Yeah, well, dumping the bank because they're being a little unreasonable and going to a competitor.
thank you. Next is Town Manager Report, letter from Cable Advisory Council, South Central Connecticut.
Yeah, just a request for reappointment, wanted to bring to your attention the letter from Mary Bigelow outlining the two members there up for reappointment.
Is this an active council? I'm not aware of what they do, and if someone can fill me in, I'd like to know.
Yeah, I believe, my understanding is they're active because they have a role in terms of the, cable public access issues. So beyond that, I don't know what's on their regular agenda.
I believe they have some funding in there through the Cable Council.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any more information in terms of what
Can we
they're
move
working
to
on.
reappoint Mary Bigelow and Joanne Wentworth tonight, or do we have to put that on a subsequent agenda?
Well, you can do whatever you like.
Joanne's in shape, too.
I'm just raising that.
Oh,
Wasn't
Joanne's
sure how
in
your
shape, too, so
process.
Which you wanted.
We should check with Joanne first. I don't know if she did it.
I'd like to suggest that maybe a member of Economic Development might do well on this, part of the Economic Development Commission.
When are their meetings, Mike?
I do not know. I do not have the schedule for them. I can get that for you and get that
Okay.
out.
Why don't we reappoint Mary Bigelow, and then Mike or somebody else, if they could check with Joanne as to her willingness to take a reappointment. And if not, then consider somebody from EDC.
Sure.
But I'd like to give Joanne the first opportunity to hold that seat if she wants to and is able to. So I'll move to reappoint Mary Bigelow to the Cable Advisory Council for South Central Connecticut.
I'll second that.
You're going to just add that it's a term to expire on June 30th, 2018.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is, anything else, Mike?
No, that's all I got.
Next is,
Well, I'm sorry, I did want to maybe make a plug. The Little League opening day ceremony went well in between the spurts of rain, but I want to give a plug to, Franny and Public Works again. They were down there working the crews to get that water off the field. They did a fantastic job, get that open for them.
next item is community events and presentations. Next item is citizen statements and petitions and correspondence.
Wow.
Next item is resignations and appointments. Next item is unfinished business, discussion and action, review and discussion of proposed policy for delinquent police extra duty bills.
Yeah, so this is one we've been kicking around for a while. As you know, Anthony and I met with Chief and Lieutenant and took what the council had talked about and put forward an effort here to come up with a better, more aggressive timeline. Also, better coordination between finance and police departments. And also, when possible, collect the fees up front using the credit card processing method when it makes sense. And also to deny those individuals, organizations that are overdue on bills for service.
Could you put a date on that, time frame on that, for denial? It's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
No, we were just looking at anybody that at this point was, overdue.
So if the delinquent-
And I think, beyond this, I think it was the implied 30-day, anything over 30 day would be denied. That's where our process starts, where we give them up to 30 days. So anything over that, anybody in the system, much like Anthony sends out for, bounce checks that we send to, departments, we follow a policy there, makes them, pay, and make sure that is corrected before we do anything.
Who determines who we charge up front?
Oh, well, that'll be in terms of the intake, if there's enough time, like I think Rose had raised the issue, if it's a sorority and they're saying,
But who will be the yes or no person? Who will decide?
Oh, well, in terms of finance, we'll look at that. If there's an opportunity, I'll talk with Terry about that to say, listen, if given enough opportunity, we can look at when it comes from police to her to look at, that we inquire and make that call to see if they would pay that bill up front.
Okay.
There's nothing on the new form I noticed for collecting the credit card information when people are calling in for a job. And that's one of the things that we spoke about. And I'm particularly disturbed that step 2, which calls for a call from the police department, which is what we discussed, seems to be at odds with the minutes of the last police commission meeting, wherein Chief Kennelly said that it wasn't their job and they weren't going to do it, if that's not an unfair reading.
No, he's agreed to do that. That was part of the discussion when we came back to the table, that they would take on that assignment in terms of the second call coming from the police department.
Yeah. Because it seems to me on this collection of information form, it's not being specific on who's requesting the job and how to get a hold of them. And then on the accompanying documents suggesting how the notices will go, it just goes to this just goes to a construction company as opposed to an individual at the construction company, and therefore you're just begging for the paperwork to get lost because you're not able to reach out to the person who actually made the request for our services.
Although it does say contact name on the form.
It does say that, and
On the new
On the new
form.
form, it does say contact name.
I saw that, but I'm not sure that that's as specific as we'd like it.
I would think that.
I mean, that's the
put that
point
name
where,
in beyond whatever notification is sent out with the contact name on it. I agree with you, there's nothing in here about the credit card information.
I think it probably will have.
I mean, this is the opportunity to have the most information and make the judgment on whether or not you're going to bill them up front. Obviously, you're not worried about companies with whom we do business on a regular basis. And I'm just trying to make certain that Anthony doesn't get saddled with unnecessary work when it could have been handled more cleanly.
What else would you have other than a contact name?
No, the credit card
Oh, the credit card, yeah, the credit card.
Is there anything in here, I didn't see it, if someone has burned us before, that we won't entertain doing that job until the previous invoice has been paid?
Or, and they pay the next one as well.
Exactly.
I mean, like in the tax department, if you write a check, there's a procedure or a policy if you write a bad check. I believe you have to have a cashier's check or, right?
Right.
cash or whatever for
And-
1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna create a do not hire list. If someone was a repeat offender with delinquencies, they were not in there.
Yeah.
Is it in here, though?
Yeah, and the
Yeah, I think it's on the last page.
last line's underlined.
Last line of suggested motion. Page 2.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's in there. And, in terms of the notes in the system, my understanding is that they can capture notes that both finance and police can share, or the two individuals, in terms of any additional information and/or credit card information. I mean, we can process that. I'm not sure it needs to, I think it's going to come after this information is captured, brought to finance, looks and says, wait a minute, we're booking this out 3, 4, 5 weeks out. It makes sense to give them a call and say, hey, you want to prepay this in terms of a credit card, we can do that. I don't know that we need to, or add to the, other than the note section on the form.
What happens to the liability of the town, though, on this? If we have this do not hire list and we refuse somebody and something happens at that site, what is the liability for the town for that? I'm just curious, let's say that we have this long list of do not hire because they haven't paid, but we don't send somebody out and something happens, what's our liability?
Well, if there's a problem, you're going to call
We
the
have an
police
attorney
department.
here.
You're
I'm
going to
at
call the
point
police
for,
department
Pat.
anyways.
Pat?
It's possible, my recollection is when I drafted a sample collection letter and sent it to the police department, I had this provision in there, and they said, no, we can't do that. If somebody calls us, we're gonna go. But I said, well, this is just not for a non-emergency, not, overtime thing.
Right.
And they still felt that they did not want that kind of a provision where we could withhold services. On the list of people who didn't pay us, there was a lot of people that weren't contractors. Have we looked at a percentage of that, or?
No, as I mentioned to you, the list you had was about, a dozen people over the last, I don't know how many years. So it really isn't a huge issue, it's just more of an annoyance type situation.
Right.
And you're right, the contractors are not the ones that are at fault. It was primarily out-of-town people. When we had a job in North Haven for Black Friday, when we had a job for Quinnipiac, a sorority in North Haven, because North Haven couldn't fill it. 2 or 3 of those larger ones were that kind of situation. And hopefully we could mitigate that, capturing the information here and then making a determination early to say, you've been burned in the past by X, Y, Z, not money up front or credit card or something like that. The run-of-the-mill products go through this very carefully, and there's very little problems.
But would I be correct to think that if it's an unfilled job in another community that we're servicing, that doesn't have a great deal of time in advance?
Yeah, I would say it's an accurate statement, because we were told by Gary, basically, they wait till the final minute.
Yeah,
They want their own guys to get the job.
certainly.
So maybe the night before, or even that morning, they'll call up and say, hey, we're short 2 guys on 22 for a construction job. Who do you have? So you're 100% correct. There's not a lot of lead time in those out-of-town type situations.
So I'm just looking to protect us on
Yeah,
that.
We don't have to do the out-of-town jobs.
Yeah.
No, I think it's part of that mutual aid compact they have, where they have our folks go there, their folks come here, kind of, one hand.
But I don't see liability for us if there's, spur of the moment thing in North Haven.
or East Haven, or Branford, or wherever. Do we have any liability if we say, hey, that guy's a bum, he didn't pay us, we're not going?
It's hard to think that we would have.
I agree with you totally on that. So I'm not sure that, I almost think the out-of-town ones, the problem is, the officers love to get the overtime.
Right.
That's what the problem is. Otherwise, anybody, none of us, somebody doesn't pay me, I don't go work for him again.
Right.
But, the problem is, the guy that takes the call and signs it, oh, cool, I get overtime here, my pension, my vacation, everything's good.
Well, see, the big thing about.
Because the townspeople are paying for it instead of
The big thing about that was it was a Toys R Us, and that was in Hamden, was one of the major ones that we were looking at. And Toys R Us, that wasn't billed properly or whatever, to the right person that called, or to the store, and they just said, well, we ain't paying it,
Well,
Most of
the
yeah.
saying, our store's in North Haven, why is North Branford sending me a bill? It doesn't match up, so
Right.
that link between the two towns is where the deficiency that George is referring to.
Yeah, because most of the early morning calls are for utility companies or cable companies, and those almost always pay up.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But even that, unless it's an emergency, like a car hit a telephone pole, everybody digging anywhere has to have a call before you dig, call in. And that's 48 hours before you can shovel, get a shovel in the ground. And it's a huge fine if you don't do that. So there is 48 hours before, so it's not, I'm just not buying that it's too hard and it's this huge emergency and everything's here. If you can call and get your insurance certificate into the town where you're gonna cross the road, if you can call before you dig, 48 hours before you can do it, you ought to be able to pay for the damn thing.
Well, I think the issue, even in our own town though, Al, would be, we want our own guys to get, say they're doing construction on Foxton Road, we want our own guys to get the job as much as possible. And we'll wait until that last minute, they ask everybody, no, before that last call is made to North Haven, say, can you fill it? It won't be till that morning. Just like they're calling us last minute, they want their own guys to get the job. So right, the contractors probably made the 48-hour notice to call before you dig, and that whole 9 yards. But as far as the police officer commitment, maybe they're short-staffed, vacations, whatever the problem is, they can't assign somebody till that last minute. Everybody's refused the job so far, so before they take it out of their own house and give it to somebody else to make the money, they wait till that last possible minute to divvy it off to another town. That's where the issue, I think, the person is going to.
Well, I'd be prepared to make a motion to move this forward, provided that you have the credit card information on that sheet.
We can put, it's Gary's form, I can have him add it to that block to the right,
Yeah.
contact name and number.
Right.
Yeah, and also, I think in the suggested motion, we do a trial period for 6 months and see how we turn out in 6 months.
I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
So it might be things we haven't thought of.
Yeah, we'll put a tickler in here to take this up for November or October, November timeframe. Okay.
Okay, so be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council adopts the following policy for the past due bills related to police duty extra pay for a trial period of 6 months. Should I read each?
Yeah.
Okay. Step 1, unpaid bill reaches 30 days past due. The phone call from the finance department and first notice will be sent. Step 2, unpaid bill reaches 45 days past due. A call from the police department and second notice is sent certified mail from the finance department noting final demand and possible collection with attorney's fees if not remitted in 15 days. Step 3, unpaid bill reaches 60 days past due. Bill sent to town attorney to begin collection process. If an individual, company, or organization has an unpaid bill with the town for an extra duty assignment, that individual, company, or organization will not receive services until the bill is paid in full via cash, certified check, or credit card, and with the addition that the credit card information be added to the intake form, we'll call it.
Second.
Any discussion?
We just have to know that we're gonna err on the side of caution for any possible liability by not sending somebody. I want to collect everything due us, but I don't want to face a big lawsuit if somebody says, no, we're not sending, and there's a liability issue. And I don't know who's the gatekeeper with that.
Sounds like the inclination of the police department is to err on the side of taking the risk of the loss, but providing the service.
If that's-
So I'm not sure that should really be a concern tonight.
Okay, just
We're
cover
gonna,
that
we're gonna,
base.
we're gonna see in 6 months
Right.
what the problem is, if there's any problems.
Okay.
Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yep.
Counselor Candelara.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Okay, next item is new business discussion and action, contingency appropriation, emergency management trailer.
Yeah, our emergency management director, Jim Buck, is here for any questions you may have, but this is an opportunity for the department to pick up a trailer for improved services and storage, and Jim's got a pretty good deal on this, but would obviously require contingency, and that's why it's before you in terms of allocation.
Good evening, Councilors. James Buck, Emergency Management Director. I think I've met or come in contact with most of you. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions you may have about this. As Town Manager Paul has mentioned, referencing the trailer, it would really serve dual purpose. As I came into the position, I realized we did not have a good storage site or location for supplies that would be needed in the event of a localized or widespread disaster. In searching out storage space is at a premium. I first focused on our regional shelter site at NBIS, and things are tight over there. I was working with the superintendent to try to find some space, maybe even a storage container, some type of permanent item that could be on site. And what we found as I've come into the position and spent some time, especially as we've gone through some cycles with the cooling centers during the summer, warming centers, which are at our libraries, we may not know where we need the supplies at any given moment. And so that's the second function the trailer would give us, is the ability to be mobile and be a little more responsive to our citizens' needs if we need to support them in a disaster.
Where will it be placed?
At the Public Works, over there, we already have a regional asset over there, the animal response trailer, and this would be basically next to that. In a pinch, I could trailer it with my vehicle. Ideally, in advance notice of something that's forecast, we would have it pre-positioned and in place. But there's absolutely, right now, no ability to get supplies to the location, other than at the time of the emergency, taking somebody that has another task, another responsibility, and trying to get them to assist us with moving supplies. So that's not the time we really want to do that. This would give us a little more flexibility to respond at a moment's notice.
I'm a little concerned about the trailer being used for storage, because these things are not impervious to penetration by rodents, and I've seen the trailers from down at Trailer Depot, and that can be a problem.
That's a good question, and I'm glad you brought that up. The types of items that will be stored in this would not be perishable items or things that are prone to degrade in high heat or cold temperatures. We would still keep water, MREs in an enclosed area. This would really be for the initial setup of cots, blankets, pillows, things like that. The idea, and it is with our cots already, is that they're in a zippered, pretty hardened package, and that would certainly be how we would want to maintain storage of any items in there. They'd be in some type of an enclosure so that they wouldn't be open.
It was the blankets and pillows that concerned me. I thought about rodents burrowing in because we don't deploy these with great frequency.
That is true. That is true. This probably would not be a super, regular item. We would definitely have a regular maintenance and an upkeep check of the supplies as well as the trailer. The fact that we've decided to go with a more prudent purchase request here with a used trailer that's in very good condition. I think it's a 2014, I believe, is the
Oh, I'm very
model here.
happy with the trailer.
Right.
Please, don't misunderstand me. And for
Yes.
transport, it's fine. But for the storage is the only thing I'm questioning here. And I'm just concerned about it being the integrity of your equipment.
Right, I think it's a good point, and we certainly wouldn't want the entirety of our storage supplies in the trailer, but I think to have it, some supplies pre-loaded and ready to deploy, I think would be wise. I can assure you, we'll keep a close eye on it and continue to monitor the supplies in there to make sure that there is no damage or, they're under attack.
Now, Jim, this is a trailer. Is there going to be a need for a container in our future?
Well, it was something we had discussed, so I don't know. I think both aesthetically and in terms of the, uncertain nature of where and when we would need to deploy resources, we decided not to go to that extreme a measure.
They're tougher to move. you said.
Right, and as most of you are probably aware, we are a regional shelter. We're designated a regional shelter, which would be staffed and supplied by the American Red Cross in the event of a widespread disaster. This really fits that niche in between, when we're not going to a widespread, large regional shelter. And it really kind of came about this winter with we had a pretty mild winter overall, but we had a couple cold spells, and trying to determine the best way to take care of our citizens. We worked with the library director to enable citizens, if needed, to remain in the libraries in the community area after hours. And that was how this kind of came about. Is okay. Well, now we need to have some supplies and be able to assist our residents in need. And that's what we came up with.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call?
Well, I just had one question. Like, what type of supplies are we talking?
We're not talking about a large quantity, but we are talking about supplies that would be needed, whether it was extreme heat or extreme cold. So certainly blankets, pillows, cots. Some things I'd like to have at some point down the road to help support our first responders would be some type of fans and able to go to a scene in a high heat, oppressive humidity situation where maybe they're there for an extended time, to be able to provide a little bit of a rehab or protected area. In addition, some type of a tent or something that would provide shelter from the
Is
sun.
this trailer large enough to accommodate a lot of blankets, a lot of cots, enough?
It's a 6 by 12. It's configurable with shelving, and so it'd be up off the ground. And it's not huge, but it will certainly serve our purposes for a minimum of supplies to be able to deploy and be ready to help out. Obviously, I haven't been here all that long, but in reviewing the history of what our citizens need, we have a pretty hardy group, and it's not often that we need to shelter and help out, but when we do, we need to be ready for them. And that's the thought.
What are so how does this work? The cots, blankets and stuff, are they wrapped, they're all brand new and?
Right, so the blankets are basically brand new. We haven't purchased them yet because, with no place to have them. What we do have on store is a minimal amount, but the cots are all self-contained, they're foldable, and they're in a storage, like storage bag.
Canvas pouch or bag or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a poly bag.
So, but I guess, looking back at, the storms that we've had, we've set up at MBIS as an evac center, if you will. We have Evergreen Woods that's kind of self-sustaining with a generator, and we have Hillside Terrace. So What, I mean, would this be something you're looking to evac people from their homes to transport them to a shelter?
We get into an interesting question with transport, because that does get tricky. We do have some vans with the senior center. We do have a few things in the
Right.
current emergency operations plan. But I'll give you a couple examples. When there was and Anthony, I think, has more details, there was recently a situation where they had a police activity in an area. They really wanted to evacuate an area and get them out somewhere, temporarily. So this could be brought on site to an area where we could improvise a temporary shelter for a short period of time, especially if you're talking about extreme temperatures or extreme weather. When you look at...
Excuse me, so
Yes.
how does this, is this trailer air conditioned?
No, nobody would be in the trailer, but I'm just
Okay,
saying,
so-
in terms of bringing supplies, especially if we had a tent or some type of enclosure, we would probably want to improvise an existing structure or business or town-owned property
Okay,
if
so
possible.
you'd be going to some disaster area and find some area to set up in.
Right. Typically, that's what we do.
Okay.
A larger scale fire, something that, maybe impacted a couple areas, multiple properties, something that, some other type of storm that came through suddenly. Certainly, we have a couple at-risk areas, where the populations are a little more vulnerable, so we would certainly want to be able to help them in any way we can. And again, with the thought that this is short-term, this is short-term assistance.
So is the town then responsible for paying for the contents of the trailer as well? Like if we were to buy 30 cots, 30 blankets, whatever you're looking to get, is that an expense the town is responsible for, or are there other avenues of funding for that?
Right, so that's not currently a part of this request. That's already in our operating budget for the emergency management line item. And as part of the budget, I did request a little bit of a bump up in that line item because those supplies are needed. We are in need of them. And with the council's approval, we've hopefully we'll go forward with that.
In your research on this proposal, you said you had looked at pods, things like storage containers. I'm wondering what the value, what the cost is of something like that as an additional item.
Right, with delivery, you're looking at around $3,000 to have a used pod delivered on site. If you're looking for one that has specific, watertight, airtight, you could be double that if you're looking for something specific.
As an annual cost.
That's a one-time
One-time
cost.
As a one-time cost.
That's for, yeah, right. There's a pretty large inventory of shipping containers available as they come here to the United States. But they're all in various conditions and,
And they're
have
not
different
mobile.
features. Right, so once they're delivered, then you
No,
have
but
one.
the whole thing is, are you going to put something into a trailer that you use very infrequently, and then when you go to access it, find that there's damage in there, or how do we
Right.
protect ourselves from that? Are we going to go with, quarterly inspections, or semi-annual replacements, or what? That's just my issue.
Hmm? Yeah. it would-
If I may, I appreciate the question, because I think long-term, we may want to look at a larger storage solution if we can't find one internally. But, for the purpose of this, it's kind of start small, right? So that's what we're
Yeah.
looking to do here,
Like a
and have the
container.
capability of being able to transport it.
And if you could get a power plug in there, a plug, there's all kinds of electronic rodent repellent
Yeah.
things on the market that, the ultrasonic sound
I
that just
took out
drives
my
them away.
outboard engine, lifted up the hood, there was a mouse nest in there, which I thought was tight. I'd be concerned about rodent damage.
You didn't have the power.
No, I didn't, but we need something.
I've got one that plugs in my garage, doesn't do much good, but
Need something for rodents, because they can cause a lot
Now,
of
at
damage.
the school or at the shelter, they have cots and all stuff in like a closet or something over there?
We have some, it's not many, most of them are at the EOC that we have, we can kind of load up and bring them.
And my
at the
understanding
police
is too,
department.
the Red Cross took care of those, like they rotated them out and would sanitize.
Well, no, they have their supplies. Their supplies come in a larger trailer than this.
Right.
And I think the experience is the trailer shows up possibly even before people do. And they, they rely on us quite a bit. And the people in this building are typically responsible for assisting with the early stages of recovery. after a
But the
disaster.
Red Cross only comes in if it's deemed a regional
Right. That's
center,
correct.
correct?
That's correct.
So if it's just something within town and not deemed, then the Red Cross doesn't bring in those supplies.
Right, and at that point,
Right.
we're on our own, and we're staffing it, that's correct. But to address the rodent as well as the maintenance issues, I mean, that would be my responsibility under the, emergency management for regular inspection. With these thoughts, I think some good discussion. I would certainly look into some type of, if it's non-powered, rodent protection, or possibly even securing a shoreline from Public Works to be able to keep that in place. But I take that, I take those suggestions very, I certainly will try to implement them.
The only other thing I think that you're gonna need to watch is, and I don't know how good your blankets and things are wrapped, but in that sort of a trailer, whatever the humidity level is outside, it's inside, and I'm thinking you're gonna have a mold problem. But, I mean, I have several of those type of trailers that we haul tools in, and, they're a good thing to haul them in, and, but they, they don't have a real long life, but, obviously for 2,800, you're not looking for something like that. But they're not, if the wind and rain blows sideways, once they're a little bit older, and obviously this must be a used one, they're not really 100% watertight either.
Are they ventilated at all? Like, do they have vents?
Well, they got, most of them have a ventilator on the roof, but that's another issue with,
Water.
in the summer, if it's open and it rains, you got water inside there, so, it's, and you admitted it, it's certainly not your perfect solution.
Right, it's not our first choice, let's say, but it is certainly a need, and I think it's one we can fill without spending a tremendous amount of money.
Well, I'm persuaded that we need it at least for transport,
Yeah.
and
And price
You
is
know,
reasonable.
with
There's a
that thought,
suggested motion here, if somebody wants to make
with that,
it.
yeah, with that thought in mind, I'm prepared to make that as a motion, that the town manager is hereby authorized to appropriate from reserve for contingency, account number 101-4703-760-0000, and transfer into the appropriate accounts as soon as possible for the following purposes. Emergency management trailer, $2,800.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
I have to abstain.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Arman,
Yes.
Counselor Candelara,
I'm voting no, just because I think we need more discussion. I think there should be more discussion on that.
Counselor Diamond,
Yes.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Thank you, counselors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is review of Senate Bill 87 regarding Regional Water Authority.
Did we want to wait for Vinnie?
It's moved now, isn't it?
Yeah, just a quick update.
Wasn't
The bill has moved to, or essentially been killed by moving it to a planning committee. So for this session, it will not rise out of committee. But Representative Candelara did indicate that he would like to come before the council after the session ends, so potentially we could revisit this on the 17th. Although I did ask Jack Krasko, our representative to the Regional Water Authority tonight, maybe to give some insight or shed some light on the, the motivation or genesis of this bill from the Regional Water Authority's perspective, if you feel that's important to have, and then we can revisit and ask Vinnie to come back on the 17th.
I think
Jack's here.
Yeah.
Jack's here.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Usually, every session, there's amendments to the Regional Water Authority and their duties, which are legislated by the state. In this case, it looked like we got caught because of what was going on in Hartford with the Bloomfield water diversion, or the bottled water plant. The only intent of the Regional Water Authority was to streamline some of the processes, and in fact, one of them was my recommendation. As an example, if we buy a Class 1, Class 2 water land, that's part of our charter, part of our mandate. When we go, we have to go to and hold a public hearing. The public hearing would be in the town that we're purchasing the land. After we pass the public hearing and we get the okay to buy the land, we buy it. Then we have to go back after it is bought and have another public hearing in order to give the DEEP the right to get the water, the rights for us not to build on it, which means they pay for about half or 3/4 of the property. So what we were doing was just making it all in one. That when you approve the purchase of the land, you wouldn't have to go back and have another meeting with the town to say the DEEP was going to pay part of it and to approve the variance or the lien on that property. There was no intent of selling anything. It was a matter of streamlining the purchase. Some of the other things that were in there is the Regional Water Authority is limited to water use, any type of business that's associated with water use. We could do testing of water for other companies, which we do, and we were attempting to give them a little more leeway in what they might be able to do to generate revenue. And I just happened to bring out with me an example of what has happened and how it's going to affect all the ratepayers. Back in the year 2000, we were selling 56 million gallons of water a day. That has gone down every year to where we're now at about 45,000. And that is really due to government regulation. Because if you go and buy anything at Home Depot, Lowe's, it's got all restrictors in it. You know, the washing machines use very little water, but the upkeep of the pipes and the water treatment plants, that cost doesn't go down. So therefore, the ratepayers are getting increases that cover the decrease in volume that was mandated by the laws that were passed. I'm not knocking the laws. I think they're pretty good. But the intent of what we were trying to do was come up with some way of making up the revenue that was being lost by the conservation efforts that we now have to undertake, all of us.
So you're looking then to be able to develop the land that you own?
We
in order-
cannot develop 1 and 2. That's watershed. This
Well,
was,
but-
this is outside of the watershed.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying, like in the town of North Branford, the Regional Water Authority owns how much?
34%.
34% of the town is a
And the
tremendous.
only thing that's available would be a little piece on the side of the hill.
Yeah, we had maps of
Yeah.
of that
It's
came through.
very little.
So my question is, Was the town consulted before this bill was introduced?
Well, in a way, all the representatives in the town, since there was no effect on any of the towns, it was unanimously passed by the representatives from New Haven, East Haven, Branford, Milford. I voted for it because there was no effect on the town itself. And any time we do any change, we have to have a public hearing in the town and get the town's approval for any of the lands.
But so I guess I just kind of, this is a Senate bill that you don't know if you have, I'm not saying there would be any kind of issue that the town may take, but you don't know if you don't consult the town before a bill is submitted, though.
There would be no effect with this bill on the properties owned in the town of North Branford. That I can tell you.
So Jack, in reading this, it read that they could sell the property or
That
use it for
Free.
energy or windmills or...
And what we've done, as an example, for energy, we had the intent of right here in the back, putting in a solar farm to supply the power to the water treatment plant. That's the type of energy. We can't go into the energy business.
But that's what I was referring to as in the form of development, you know, putting in solar panels, wind farm, whatever it may be. You know, that's what I'm referring to. I'm not saying you would put up a factory or something, but I'm saying this would enable you then, it would make it easier, streamline the process for you to go into a venture like that, right?
Yes, in fact, there's one that just opened, 5 megawatts, in Cheshire, right off Route 10, that you wouldn't even know was there.
Right, but my concern is that the town, you're streamlining the process, and it's a process that really affects North Branford, considering that RWA owns 35% of the land. 34% of the land, sorry.
And pieces of the land that you're talking, the 34% would not be affected. This water treatment plant is not class 1 or 2 land.
Mhm.
It's not watershed. The majority of the land is watershed, and that you cannot touch.
Right.
So there's no effect on that, on the side of the hill and up on the lake.
There's no map to that effect, is there?
We do have,
Yes.
Where?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's-
well, Mike's office has them, I know,
Okay.
I have one too.
Kurt may have.
Now,
Kirby.
we do have some class 2 land that we lease the farmers to hay, but that's about the sum and substance of it. That is in Bethany. And that's been going on for God knows when, probably since the time it was the New Haven Water Company.
I mean, all I can say is from my perspective, I mean, I didn't read through the whole thing, and I'm not an attorney, but I would prefer that before bills like this were submitted, that, you know, the town would be consulted. That's all I'm saying. So when we go ahead and streamline a process and perhaps take the town's stake out of it, that would be a concern to me, for what it's
Yes.
worth.
I guess the only thing we could, the regional water could do is run a meeting for all towns. That'd be humongous.
Well, maybe
meeting.
that's appropriate, yeah, I don't know.
But as I said, none of the other, we are the only town that objected to it. Or Vinnie was the only person.
Yeah, because, like, how much land does the RWA own in Branford? Like, what percent?
It's gotta be less than 10.
Yeah, so here we have, like, we're an outlier, 35%, 34% is a lot of land.
But most of that land that they own, you can't build on.
I think that, Jack's told us how he feels it got there. And I
Yeah.
think, we should hear from Vinnie.
Yeah.
And no disrespect, Jack, but, you do know that Class 1 land all over the country, there's boating on reservoirs, there's houses around reservoirs. So there's no law that says they can't put a solar farm up there or anything like that on their watershed land. In our zoning
but
books, we
if
have
we
a watershed
attempted-
district. I built houses in the watershed district at the
Yeah.
top of Sea Hill.
If we were to put in our charter, if we were to attempt, if they were to attempt to put a wind farm up there, it requires your approval.
Well, what we were told
It's in your
as a
town.
council was that this document that was gonna get approved, they would have had the ability to do that. So that's why we need Vinnie to come in
Yeah.
and
Right.
explain it to
That's
us.
what I wanted.
No,
Okay.
see, that's up in the watershed,
Oh,
Well, wherever
it doesn't,
it
it doesn't do
is.
me any good without a map, and I
yeah.
But
forgive
again,
me.
wherever it is.
And maybe a wind farm is a good thing.
Right.
I think
I
we
wanna
have to
see
do
where
another
it's
thing.
gonna be.
We would need to, and it's so funny, because, everyone wants to go green, but no one wants a wind tower in their backyard.
Right.
We
just need to
But-
be, we need to be a part of that discussion.
And we would wanna have a discussion on, well, what's this do to taxes?
Right.
Yeah, and anything in your town
So,
requires your approval, even with this bill.
but with this, Jack, to me, and I won't beat a dead horse anymore. It would seem to me that our state representative should have been notified that this bill was gonna come before him up there.
I
And if he
concur.
didn't do
Yeah.
his due diligence
Right.
and read every bill that's out there, it would have gone through. So I think it's good
I
that
don't
we
doubt.
hear from him.
I agree.
I don't know what happened in Hartford.
Yeah. Okay.
I just think Vinnie made a good catch.
Vinnie made a good catch, and
At least we
He's a
had a
good man,
discussion.
I mean, no question about it.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jack.
Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
That's Chip.
Next item is review of point and pay credit card service proposal.
To give you a brief history on credit cards, about 15 to 18 years ago, we started taking credit cards for tax payments through a company called EPOS. That then transformed into official payments. And about 3 to 4 years ago, we hooked up with Webster Bank. And we went with Webster Bank because they had a relationship with our software vendor, our Walsh and Associates, so it was seamless. The files are easily to be uploaded into the Walsh system. Subsequently, there have been many requests to be able to take credit card payments at the window. Folks come in on the last day of the month, or they're delinquent, or even just on time, they want to pay with a credit card, maybe they get the miles, things like that, and we say go back online and do it. Well, this company, Point and Pay, also has a relationship with our company, our Walsh Associates, our software company. They have the system up and running in Ledyard and are very, very happy with it. The other side that makes it attractive to us is with Webster Bank, it's another banking relationship we had to form. And we're required to keep fee money there as a compensating balance to offset the fee charges. Now, in the height of the tax collection season, the June, July, August timeframe, we're looking upwards of $1 million we have to keep there as a compensating balance, not earning interest, but earning earnings credits theoretically to pay the fees. All our other banking relationships are primarily, we do hard dollar fee. We invest every dollar we have. At the end of every night, every dollar is invested, except for the money on this Webster Bank situation. There's also some operational issues with Webster we weren't really happy with. So a recommendation that we came forward with, we had numerous reviews, a couple online demonstrations, people were here face-to-face, and based on the fact that there's no cost to the town at all the fees are covered by the user. They're going to provide the swipe machines at the counter free of charge for us, and the ability to take credit cards information at the counter is really, really huge. We recommend that we change our relationship from Webster Bank to Point and Pay, and we hope to have it in place in the next 30 days so that when the new bills come out, you'll be able to take credit cards at the window for this upcoming July tax payment cycle.
excellent.
So you're doing it for the tax department and the
Excellent
building
question.
department?
Well, we are doing it primarily for the tax department. We are also working, the building department has a software called Point Software for their building permits, online building permits. And one of the requirements or one of the concerns that the building officials had for years is that people get halfway through the process. They can't pay for that payment. Well, Point and Pay happens to have a relationship with Point Software, so we can integrate that piece into the building department as well. One thing that was a downfall was I was looking to get one-stop shopping with the Recreation Department. They use a program called RecTrack. And Vermont Systems that owns RecTrack has a very small stable of folks they let play with their system. And unfortunately, Point and Pay is not in that stable currently. I'd like to have one processor for the whole town.
Right.
To make life easy. But the police, talked to the police earlier about the credit cards. This is all web-based. We can make the police department their own user. They have access, to their section of the world. We would have global access. But they can accept credit cards for whatever, need they have to do. And we see this as a blooming relationship that's going to get bigger and bigger over time. And again, so far the results we've heard from other towns that have used the company are very favorable.
Which other towns, Anthony?
We talked about Ledyard. We talked about there's two in Massachusetts. The name escapes me offhand, but the primary one that has our relationship with our software vendor. There's only like maybe a dozen towns in Connecticut that have our software, our tax software, and Ledyard is the one that is using them currently. And they have the seamless. They were also with Webster, had the same operational concerns and issues, and they converted over to Point and Pay as well.
And the user doesn't have to pay extra money?
Oh yeah, the user does.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The
And what
user
is that
pays. It's a
percent?
2-point-something% fee add-on to
Yeah.
most credit cards and most debit cards. Visa debit has a flat. I think it's like a $3 or $4 flat fee, whatever it is. But for some reason, Visa has a special program to use their debit card in this type of situation. But all the fees are borne by the user. The town has no cost at all on it. So every dollar we have will be invested, and there's no out-of-pocket to the town at all.
A collateral question, what would it take to switch Park and Rec over at some point?
Well, when I talked to the folks from Point and Pay, I asked them about being in the RecTrack world. And they've tried numerous times to get into that small stable of credit card processors, and RecTrack will not let them in currently. He said, but every year we try, when it comes up for a renewal, we try to get in there, so they're going to keep trying. So ideally, we can they're using a company called ETS currently for their credit card processing, which is, there's some issues with that. We're trying to get the cards with the chip readers as part of the new world and have some issues with that. So I think this Point and Pay seems to have their stuff together really well, and I'd like to be able to bring it all under one roof eventually. But for the time being, the tax department definitely, building department looks 99% sure. If we can get the police on board, that's the third use, and then hopefully maybe eventually recreation and get all the credit card processing in town under one umbrella.
Is there a minimum commitment?
It's a 3-year commitment, I believe. I did send this over to the Attorney Young to look at, and I think there was a clause in there. 8.1 talks about it's a 3-year commitment basically, and at the average 1 year after that, you have 60 days notice to kick out if you want to kick out. So that's typical with any of our contracts. We have the provision to get out if need be.
And for how long has Ledyard had this in place?
3 years.
Oh,
No, we're glitching within 3 years.
that sounds pretty good.
Did you talk to anybody at Ledyard?
Oh yeah, talked to the finance director and the tax collector.
3 years, they're happy.
Extremely happy.
When they do credit card,
Yes.
do they go online and they're responsible to fill out everything?
Yes.
So it's not like someone calling in
No.
and giving you the information?
No. We are not going to be receiving people's credit card information at all. That's a huge liability for us. So either you go online from your house and do it that way, or you come to the counter, the machine will be on the other side of the window, you take your card, you swipe your own card.
Right.
We'll get the system ready for you, we'll say hit the button, you swipe, take your own card back in your pocket. We don't touch their cards at all,
Right.
to avoid that whole liability or risk or whatever that could happen. So we don't touch the cards at all.
But I'm saying, no one can call in and say, I'm so-and-so, and
No.
it's got to be done online.
Correct. We are looking at a 1-800 number as well, because some folks are used to 1-800 numbers for other kind of payments. But currently, you have to go online, go to our website. There'll be the link that's there currently to take you to Webster. Will take you to look just like our page, like it does now. It'll take you to this Point and Pay page, and you'll fill your information in and pay that way.
So if you do it for the police department to pay
Yes.
for extra duty thing, So is there really a need for the police department to take the credit card information over the phone? Isn't that
same risk.
opening a liability then to
Yeah,
us?
as I was reading, discussing that earlier, I kind of, you don't want to take information that could be deemed confidential over the phone, and who knows where that paper ends up. It could have been 7 people's hands, and if something happened to that person's credit card account, obviously they're looking at, well, Mike had it, gave it to Rose, or gave it to Anthony, and, along the line is a bunch of potential liability. I think the point that the manager made earlier was maybe when it's deemed that that person needs a credit card, we can say, here, go to our website. Right, on the police website, we can have a link as well. Go to the police department website, nbpolice.org, click here for credit card payment, takes you to, again, Point and Pay. It looks like the police page, but you're on Point and Pay, and you pay it that way. We don't want to handle people's credit card numbers.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Right.
So is there some kind of confirmation that is then given to?
Yes.
Like the police department, tax department, building
Yes.
department, whatever, that it's paid?
Right. We, whoever the administrator is, if, like, I have global, but like the building department could have, access to his accounts and tax and so on. It's not instantaneous. I believe it's like, it processes, no, I take back, it's live. It is live. This company was live. Some are next day processing where you can't wait till the next day to get information. This one is actually live. You can go online and see the actual payments.
Okay.
So you would know, the police department would know that, okay, Mr. Miller requested a police officer, he paid online, here's documentation, here's proof, send a cop.
Okay.
So to digress 1 second, with the motion that I made regarding that, should we modify that motion and not have credit card information on that form? Because that was a part of the motion that we were talking about.
Right. It might be worth, let me talk to Gary and to see what his thoughts are, Lieutenant Repa, and see what his thoughts are. I'm kind of hesitant to take credit card information, write it down, because of that whole potential liability, but I'll discuss it with him and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, not only that, I've done it with at work, and if you make a mistake or
With the number? Transposing
or
a number, not
transpo- or
taking.
whatever, you get billed.
Sure.
As a penalty and whatnot. So it's much better not to handle it at all.
We want to minimize the
Right,
risk.
and swipe and go.
So you're looking for your concurrence to make that change so we can have it in place in time for the upcoming July 1st payment cycle.
Anybody?
I'd like to make a motion that the North Branford Town Council hereby authorizes Michael T. Paulus, Town Manager, and Anthony P. Esposito, Jr., CPFO, Treasurer, Finance Director, sign any and all documents necessary to enter into an agreement with Point and Pay LLC for the purposes of online as well as face-to-face credit card processing for the town of North Branford pursuant to the favorable review of the town attorney. Furthermore, the town council instructs the Treasurer, Finance Director to terminate the relationship with Webster Bank at the end of the current fiscal year.
Second that.
I just like, are you good with the answer I gave you on those questions you had before we go any further, or are you thumbs up, thumbs down? Thumbs up, okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Just one thing in regards to the police department, the motion we made earlier. Can you just get an answer so that if we have to amend that motion at the next council meeting, we can do so?
Also, another thought, on the Webster termination, the added benefit we get is the freeing up of $1 million, right?
Correct.
So do we need direction? We're just, in theory, that allows us to put that money to work invested, correctly?
Correct.
Right.
I've already notified Webster, because you need a 60-day window on their escape clause as well.
Yeah.
So I actually notified them 2 weeks ago that we were probably going to exit with them come June 30th.
Yeah.
So I said I was going to firm it up with the council, but I, count
So
this
you-
as my exit letter kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the ball has already started to terminate.
I guess what I'm getting to, we don't need any additional authorization.
No.
You would follow natural procedure, sweep that money into the investment account.
That's
Was that
correct.
contract gonna end anyways with them? Or-
Webster? If I notify him, it
As
is.
long as you know.
Right, yeah. Most of our contracts have 60-day escape clauses, so I activated that.
Thank you. Next item is citizen statements and petitions.
So as a concerned citizen, I want to, there was that Paper Reduction Act. Do the rest of you really need all these committee reports? I mean, we had 30, 40 pages of EDC, Planning and Zoning, Police Commission. I don't see the need. I mean, but
Why don't
we
we,
never
put it
used to get them.
online?
I think actually Vinnie Caprio asked that he wanted to start seeing them, but I mean, that's just an awful lot of wasted paper.
And we get an oral report, so I guess we, as long as.
Well, and they're posted on the website under each of those commissions and everything.
Sometimes.
at some point, maybe we could discuss
Some are far behind.
laptops, because, like, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but when I
Hey,
get home,
remember, I brought it up 2-3 years ago.
well, I mean,
You have
it's,
9 laptops and, or 10, 11, 12. but,
I'm on number 12 of these, and, I have a lot of paper at home, and, I don't know, maybe it's something we could talk about.
I don't know, I don't know where the rest of you are on it, but I think that there's an awful lot of wasted trees.
Well, yeah.
Well,
My house is a
for the
fire
time that
hazard.
Mike and the secretary put into putting it all together and everything else, you know
Right,
what?
that too.
You could pay for your laptop in half a year. So,
My house looks like your office.
I don't know.
Nice place.
It's a nice place.
No comments in the back.
So, yeah, I could take that out and just go with oral reports, and, most of this, you can find it, or just call me. If you want hard copy, I'll bring you a hard copy, otherwise we'll reduce the
I think we
packets
should,
and
I think probably
with
should
oral.
look into a price for a laptop for
I think it was
Yeah.
Farmington did tablets for their council members.
tablets,
Tablets are
same
maybe
thing.
cheaper.
Yeah.
I can investigate that.
Maybe we can hook up with the Board of Ed's technology grant, the money, and maybe we can get something through there.
Well, how hard would it
I
be
don't think so. I think
to
that
just
has to
put
be
it,
all education.
put all the...
Well, we finance the
yeah,
technology,
it is education.
we finance the technology lease. Every year we approve.
Oh, I see, you're part of the lease.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
actual monies they get in the grant, though.
Oh, yeah, no, the technology
Lease.
lease where they're
Right,
updating
right.
their stuff. Every year they're getting new stuff. Maybe we can
That's a good idea.
piggyback on that.
Or get
and
Would it
get
be,
something.
would it be a big deal to, if we were to go that route, to format, all of our correspondence in an easy way? I mean,
Scan it in.
Yeah, just scan it in.
Scan it in, make one PDF file and send it to you.
Done.
And tablet would be a better idea than a
Yes.
Yeah, right.
laptop.
Yeah, but hardware aside, we could still get each of the committee reports sent to us as a PDF file.
Yeah.
And then we would have it.
Right.
In whatever manner we've been collecting the emails.
A lot of them come to Gina in a all PDF file, so it's just
I'd be fine with
Sending out
just
80
having those forwarded to me.
sending out
as,
9 or 10 more.
As part of the meeting announcement or whatever. That's fine.
But a tablet would reduce all this paper.
Right.
Oh.
and mailing.
And mailing.
Oh, yeah. Save a lot of money.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it's.
All right, so you'll look into that, Anthony?
Thank you.
Good idea.
Executive session, there's nothing. And adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Believe